Most people spend their lives preparing for success, but very few prepare for meaning. They chase promotions, applause, and security, yet still wake up feeling empty. That's because the life you're meant to live doesn't begin with what you do. It begins with why you exist. Preparation isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to ask better questions before life forces them upon you. Because if you don't choose your direction early, the world will happily choose it for you. We're taught to plan careers, not callings, to collect skills, not clarity, to move faster, not deeper. And then we wonder why progress feels hollow. The truth is, the life meant for you is not waiting at the end of achievement. It's waiting at the beginning of alignment between what you believe, how you lead, and the standards you refuse to compromise. You don't prepare for that life by being fearless. You prepare by being intentional, by deciding what you stand for before you're tested, by building trust with yourself before asking the world to trust you. Because when pressure comes, and it always does, you won't rise to your goals. You'll fall to your preparation. And the question isn't whether opportunity will arrive. The question is whether you'll recognize it as the life you were meant to live, or let it pass because you weren't ready. Clarity always comes before confidence because men don't lack courage. They lack certainty about what they are committing their courage to. When a man doesn't know why he's doing something, hesitation looks like weakness, but it's actually confusion. Confidence is not built by hype or reassurance. It's built when the mind understands the direction and the heart agrees with the cost. Men are wired to move toward purpose, not comfort. And when purpose is unclear, action feels heavy. From the inside, a man may look lazy or unmotivated, but internally he's weighing the risk of giving his full strength to something that may not matter. Clarity removes that friction by answering a simple question: is this worth my effort, my reputation, and my sacrifice? From a woman's perspective, this lack of clarity often shows up as inconsistency rather than insecurity. She may see a man who starts strong and pulls back suddenly, not because he's afraid of failure, but because he's unsure of alignment. Women sense when a man is moving without direction, and that uncertainty erodes trust faster than doubt ever could. When a man gains clarity, confidence follows naturally, because his actions are no longer about proving himself. They become about honoring what he believes in, and belief gives him stability even when outcomes are uncertain. Your beliefs quietly determine the direction of your life long before any visible choice is made. Men often think they are driven by ambition or necessity, but beneath every decision sits a belief about what they deserve, what is possible, and what kind of man they are allowed to become. These beliefs act like an internal compass, and no amount of effort can override a compass that is pointing the wrong way. Men are taught to push through doubt, but rarely taught to question the stories they've accepted as truth. If a man believes his value comes only from winning, he will choose paths that feed status over meaning. If he believes he must never fail, he will avoid the very risks that lead to growth. His direction doesn't change because his circumstances change. It changes when his beliefs are challenged. From a woman's perspective, these beliefs show up not in words, but in patterns. She notices whether a man leads with fear or with principle, whether his decisions come from self-trust or self-protection. A man who doesn't believe he is enough will overcompensate or withdraw, and both create distance. When beliefs are aligned with purpose, a man's direction becomes steady even in uncertainty. He stops chasing approval and starts choosing actions that reflect who he is preparing to become. Success without purpose feels impressive from the outside, but empty on the inside. And many men don't realize this until they reach the very thing they were chasing. They work relentlessly, sacrifice relationships, and measure their worth by outcomes, believing fulfillment will arrive once they win. When it doesn't, confusion sets in, not because the E failed, but because they succeeded at something that never truly mattered to them. Men are conditioned to equate achievement with identity, so walking away from an unfulfilling version of success feels like weakness. Admitting that a goal no longer fits threatens the image of strength they've built. Instead of questioning direction, many men double down, mistaking endurance for meaning and staying loyal to paths that no longer align with who they are becoming. From a woman's perspective, this kind of success often creates emotional distance rather than security. She may see a man who has everything, yet feels absent, driven but disconnected, present in effort but missing in purpose. Women don't respond to status as much as to grounded direction, and purpose gives that direction weight and stability. When purpose leads, success becomes a byproduct rather than a destination. A man moves with intention, measures progress by impact, and builds a life that feels as strong on the inside as it looks on the outside. Standards shape behavior long after motivation fades, which is why men who rely on inspiration alone eventually feel stuck. Motivation is emotional and temporary, rising when things feel exciting and disappearing when pressure arrives. Standards, on the other hand, are decisions made in advance about who a man chooses to be, regardless of how he feels in the moment. Men often believe discipline means forcing themselves to push harder, but real discipline comes from clarity. Thank you about what is acceptable and what is not. When standards are low, motivation has to work overtime to compensate. When standards are clear, effort becomes consistent because the question is no longer whether to act, but how well to act in alignment with those standards. From a woman's perspective, standards create safety and trust more than intensity ever could. She doesn't look for constant drive or loud ambition, but for reliability under pressure. A man with strong standards is predictable in the best way, steady in his values, and grounded when emotions fluctuate. When a man raises his standards, he no longer negotiates with his excuses. His behavior becomes a reflection of self-respect. And preparation for the life he's meant to live becomes part of who he is, not something he has to force himself to chase. Trust is not created in moments of crisis. It is revealed there, because what a man does under pressure is shaped by habits formed long before the pressure arrives. Men often believe trust is earned through big gestures or last-minute heroics, but trust is actually built quietly in the unseen moments where no one is watching and nothing is being rewarded. Men tend to underestimate how closely their consistency is being observed, especially when there is no immediate consequence. Every small decision teaches others and himself what he can be relied on for. When a man cuts corners in private, he's not just risking failure later, he's training himself to be unreliable when it matters most. From a woman's perspective, trust is rarely about words or promises, but about patterns. She notices whether a man follows through when it's inconvenient, whether his values remain intact when he's tired, stressed, or uncertain. A man who is steady in low-stakes moments creates emotional safety because his behavior doesn't shift when conditions change. Trust also begins internally, because a man who doesn't trust himself will struggle to earn trust from others. When he repeatedly breaks commitments to himself, he carries quiet doubt into every relationship and responsibility. That doubt shows up as defensiveness, over-control, or withdrawal. When a man builds trust early through alignment between belief and behavior, preparation becomes his advantage. He doesn't panic when pressure comes because he's already practiced being dependable long before dependability was demanded. Preparation is never about predicting the future. It's about becoming the kind of man who can be trusted with it when it arrives. Most men wait for clarity, opportunity, or pressure before they change, believing the test will announce itself. It rarely does. The most important moments show up disguised as ordinary days, quiet decisions, and unglamorous responsibilities that seem insignificant at the time. Men are wired to respond to challenges they can see, measure, and compete against, which is why invisible tests are so dangerous. Character is tested when there is no scoreboard, no audience, and no immediate reward. A man who only performs when watched is not prepared, he's conditioned. Preparation happens when discipline is practiced in private and standards are upheld without external validation. From a woman's perspective, preparation reveals itself through stability rather than intensity. She notices whether a man remains grounded when plans fall apart, whether he takes responsibility without being asked, and whether his reactions match his values under stress. Women sense when a man is rehearsing for something greater because his presence feels calm, intentional, and reliable. The unseen test often arrives as pressure, temptation, or unexpected responsibility, and it exposes whatever a man has been practicing all along. Those who prepared only for success struggle when sacrifice is required. Those who prepared their mindset, beliefs, and behavior move with clarity even when outcomes are uncertain. When a man prepares today, he is not trying to control tomorrow. He is shaping his responses before they are demanded, choosing alignment over impulse, and building the inner structure that allows him to meet the life he's meant to live without hesitation.